Tonight, the Maryland man, whom the Trump administration admits it deported to El Salvador accidentally, or, it says it was accidental administrative issue, is fighting back. The attorney for Kilmar Abrego Garcia slamming the Trump administration in a new court filing for doing, quote unquote, nothing at all to fix the mistake. And they say in part, I quote from it, defendants have already washed their hands of Garcia and his U.S. citizen wife, of his autistic, nonverbal 5-year-old U.S. citizen child. This is an outrageous set of facts. This is Garcia's wife speaks out about her husband's 3-week-long detention in a notorious maximum security prison known for housing the, quote, worst of the worst. She shares the moment she saw this photo and realized her husband was in the prison.
When I saw it, I immediately broke down because I knew it was him.
What was your biggest fear when you identified him?
I was scared for his life. He's not a criminal. My husband is an amazing person, an amazing father.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. I don't know how much more clearly I can say this. If the Trump administration can do this to an innocent father from Maryland, they can do it to you. That's what the abandonment of due process means. Without that protection, which, by the way, is in the Constitution, none of us can be guaranteed the right to assert our innocence or even our citizenship status. Not that our government should be treating anyone this way, but say they did try to deport a U.S. citizen. Without the right to due process, without the ability to appear before a judge, whatever the government asserts can go unchallenged. In my last interview with Chris Goldsmith, he made that case in extraordinarily stark terms. He said that under current practices, this government could declare him a terrorist because he runs an organization that exists to fight Trump's fascist takeover. Then the government could deport him to a black hole prison, and without due process, Chris would have zero legal recourse. Here's the second part of that conversation where Chris and I discuss just how deep into this full-blown constitutional crisis we now find ourselves. Yeah, we're at the bottom of the slippery slope. Well, let me hedge, because I think we can still go even further down. Like, they're not done assaulting our civil liberties. And when they're caught red-handed, they just lie. They'll start with their legal arguments, but I'm going to throw this screenshot up of JD Vance responding to some of this online outrage at what his administration, what the government did to this Venezuelan. And he said, apparently you didn't read that he was a convicted MS-13 gang member with no legal right to be here. False and false. He had protected status. He was not a convicted MS-13 gang member. In fact, the one allegation against him was dismissed by the police. It was pure hearsay. It was some guy in a parking lot who said that's an MS-13 member. The guy was working at a union shop. He had a 5-year-old autistic son. He's married to a U.S. citizen. When they're caught red-handed, they just lie. And the most frustrating thing about that is that lie from the vice president came on the same day as his government said an administrative oversight led to the deportation of this individual.
Yeah, I think back to the warning that we did, in Against All Enemies, of how JD Vance would leverage his veteran status that Americans respect to gain credibility as he started to move towards authoritarianism, embracing the tenets of authoritarianism and of fascism. The man is now the vice president of the United States, and he is using a tremendous bully pulpit to lie to the American people, to slander an American family. The man himself may not be a citizen, but his wife is, his child is. He is slandering an American family and justifying deporting an innocent person into a gulag, into a camp for political prisoners. I hope that, and we talked about this last time I was on your show, I hope that there are people keeping score and keeping track, because, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it looks to me like JD Vance is a co-conspirator in this attempt to violate this man's civil rights. And at a certain point, this can't be a legal settlement where taxpayers pay the victims of the Trump-Musk regime. These co-conspirators who are violating civil rights are violating, they are committing felonies. This is not simply an argument for a civil case in a civil court. These people need to be prosecuted. And, if we're going to just start throwing the label gang on anything, why don't we really start considering racketeering? I think that what the Trump-Musk administration is doing with the, giving Musk all of these federal contracts, allowing him to eliminate contracts with his competitors, I think that the Trump-Musk administration is a racketeering organization. I think that Democrats today should be talking about the specifics of RICO law at the federal level and at the state level. And I think that state prosecutors should start building their cases now, because these people are not above the law. They will be held responsible. We just can't do them the favor of giving up or do what Biden attempted to do of saying, we're all just going to pretend things are normal, because these are not normal times. And people who are guilty of felonies, of violating other people's civil rights, of violating hate crime laws, those people need to be held responsible personally.
Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh. Check out the new trailer for Valor Media Network. Together, we can take on Joe Rogan and his Manosphere Bros and win. Click the link below to subscribe to Valor Media Network and share it with a friend. Thanks, Midas Mighty. We got this.
There's not enough men like me who do whatever they want.
Are you sick of it yet?
Those people need to be, when we take power, they need to be given the death penalty.
The anger,
I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist.
the hate.
And we have a system of checks and balances. That's a good one. That's really funny. We do?
The idea that to be a man, you have to be a bully. Fuck you! We should be better than this.
Females don't have independent thought. They don't come up with anything.
Our kids deserve better than this.
It's like women want equal rights when it's convenient, but then they still want the door open for them.
So help us change it. Subscribe to Valor Media Network, where you can find shows on sports, men's health, and patriotism without the resentment and division.
True strength is about discipline, resilience, and service.
If you've wondered where all the positive role models are, especially for young men, check out Navy SEAL Dan Barkov and Commander Bobby Jones as they share stories of service and sacrifice.
Being good at being a man is about what you do for others and not what you do for yourself.
Listen to Jason Tander and co-hosts Ravi Gupta and Adisu Demisi give you the inside track on the politics of sports.
I just want to take back what I said about the Bills. No, because in all honesty, your team seems to have gotten the vaccination thing right. Okay. My team seems to be struggling with it.
These shows and many more from Valor Media Network prove that you don't have to be an asshole to connect with young men today. Subscribe to Valor Media Network today. Here's my biggest fear, and it overrides even my outrage at Signalgate and these unlawful deportations and everything else. It's the observation that they are being so wanton and callous in their disregard for the law that it signals maybe they know they won't be held accountable. That the only thought process I can comprehend that would justify that kind of reckless disregard for the law is the idea that the law won't hold them accountable because they'll be in power forever. I think that might be their calculation.
Yeah, and I think that they are their worst case scenario. They have gamed this out, right? They're not going into this without a plan. They've gamed this out. Their worst case scenario is that landslide elections happen. Republicans in the Senate hold. No one gets impeached, successfully removed from office if a Democratic House does impeach them. I think that they are depending on the unquestionable power of the president's privilege to pardon anyone preemptively, as Joe Biden did on his way out of office for the January 6th committee and others. And I think that we as a country are going to have to have a real debate as to whether or not the President of the United States should have an unquestionable pardon power. Because what an unquestionable pardon power is in the hands of someone who is fundamentally corrupt, or an entire administration that is fundamentally corrupt, it is literally a get out of jail free card. It frees them from the fear of prosecution for any wrongdoing. And I think that the next administration, Democrats who are going to be running for office, whether it's in the House or the Senate or for president or health, even local and state, need to be talking about how we need to have a fundamental national conversation about whether we can allow America to have a Caesar, to have a dictator, because that is not where that is the opposite of where our founders intended for us to be. But we have gotten there, and we need to fix the problem, not just hope that things will change. We need to work towards the change we need to see.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, Chris. Thank you, as always. Let's talk again soon.
Thank you, brother.